Welcome back to Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA. Today's episode, powered by Perfect Sports Nutrition, is all about my favorite stretches to help you with your head kicks. All right, today's episode, we're gonna talk about my favorite stretches when it comes to martial arts and getting those head kicks going, all right? But the problem is, I'm gonna give you my 5 favorite, but the biggest problem is everybody has tightness in different areas. So what I use and where I'm tight is not necessarily where you are. So you kind of have to know your body a little bit to understand where you need to focus your stretching on. But usually as martial artists who train a lot, who kick a lot, who do our strength and conditioning, we tend to be tight in the same spots, and that's our hips, our glutes, or even our groins, our hamstrings, and those who are males following the channel, in just general, we tend to have tighter hamstrings and hips. So let's get into my favorite types of stretches. And the first one we're gonna talk about is just a very simple one, and that's just sitting in a squat position. And a lot of people that I study and all the mobility that I work on, being able to sit in this position is hard for a lot of people. The key in this position here is, one, I tend to have flat feet and my hips are one of the tight spots. So when I'm in this position, my knees want to collapse inwards, right? And I'm gonna lose the arch in my feet. So by working on opening up my knees, sitting up nice and high, and slowly trying to work my heels to the ground. Right, you can see that I have a little bit of ankle mobility issues, so it's hard for me to sit on my heels. But it's something I'm working on. So this is the simple one, and just rocking back and forth, using your elbows to push your knees open, okay? Very simple, very easy. And if you even move forward now, you feel an even bigger stretch on your groin, okay? So that's number 1, sitting in your squat hold, and you can even sit here for 5 minutes. The goal would be to sit here for 5 minutes, and you'll just notice basically that tightness in your hips and your groins is just gonna melt away as the time goes on, all right? That's number 1. Number 2 now is a simple one, but I'm gonna add a little bit of an addition to make it a little bit more difficult, and one that I like to do is for my hamstrings. I tend to have very tight hamstrings, especially if I'm just finishing a lower body strength and conditioning workout. The next day, my hamstrings and glutes are fried. So this is one of the stretches. Simple, and just let your body weight do it, okay? So even simply just hanging, okay? I'm trying to hang and just let my hamstrings just go away. Sometimes here, you'll see me really pushing backwards, right? That's the key. I'm trying to get my knees snapping outwards, okay? So as you get more into it, pull yourself in, work on getting your knee backwards. You can grab under, okay? Playing around, and then sometimes just sit there and slowly keep rocking your knees back. It's like a walking step, just help open up everything. Now, if that's easy for a lot of people following, this is where I just make a little bit of a slant board, right? All you have to do, this is a really higher elevated, but depending on your flexibility, just standing on the board and just resting at this point. Now, you're gonna feel a more intense stretch in the back of the calf, which is really important because we want that flexibility, and just really work through continuing to hang. Now, if this is still easy for you and you can kind of get right under, grab, you can even elevate this on a plank or some sort of board and get even further. Sometimes I even hold dumbbells to really get me down, right? So this is one way to easily get those hamstrings working. Now, the other thing we notice when we kick is our groins are tight, and the hip and the groin really need to open up. So the third stretch, okay, one we see a lot of, all right? It's the base is here on our knees, and we're gonna be sitting here. Now from here, I just want you to rock forward and backwards, and this is where you're gonna start feeling the difference in your hip here, all right? And then when you get comfortable and I like these little subtle movements in here, okay? Just find where the tightness is, sitting back, sitting forward. Okay, now to make this stretch a little bit more intense, all you have to do is start bringing out one leg here now, okay? Now, if you start looking here in these positions, you can start seeing now, this shows what a good side kick is, a good turning kick. So this is where you see me start, again, forward and backwards with my hip, and sometimes just sitting back, and you'll really feel your knee open up. Another nice one I like to do is getting my knee here and just grinding forward and backwards. Okay? You'll find it's not perfect. Everyone's a little bit, like I mentioned, tighter in different areas, but this is one that really starts opening up my hips for me. All right, and this is our third one here. Spend as much time as you need here, okay? You don't have to rush it. You don't have to get crazy into it. Good, continuing to stretch and going through. Okay, now let's get back to our feet. Now, from this position here, I really want us to open up our hips. So just from this position here, okay? Very simple. I mean, there's different ways. You see all the different warrior posing here, which is important. Now, if my feet are in this L position, so this is where I start playing around with my little bit of my feet positioning. If my feet are in an L, I'll feel it a little bit more in my groin. I mean, if you want to put your yoga hands out, I call them, in that warrior pose, you can. Otherwise, just find where it's tight and just sit there for a little bit. Kind of rock and grind, make sure your feet in a strong position. Now, I could adjust my back foot on the toe now, and you see as I push forward and sit down, now I'm bringing the stretch through my hip flexor here, right? And that's where most of us martial artists tend to be tight. So here, and then alternating groin into this position. And sometimes here, see how I even work this little bit of this grinding position. Because when you kick and stuff, you need that opening up. So just getting this little twist to feel that stretch open up, okay? Alternating side, remember I can keep the L for my groin with my feet pointing in this direction, coming through here. Now I feel it in my front hip. Now, a lot of this other principles I've been following, you could even do simple lunges from here. From here, I do a lot of single leg here, trying to work my knees, my hips, nice, strong, good foot positioning. All right, so that's opening up my hips and my groin. All right, the fifth and final stretch that I like to do is, again, focusing on keeping the legs open. Our whole thing all day is keeping our legs nice and closed. We want to be here open now. Feel that stretch. So just from here, I start by simply just keeping my hands here and turning. Right? This is what basically the snapping of the kick is in this motion. So you're realizing when I turn, I'm almost making a straight line. This is my side kick line. So when I can turn and just feel my hips open up. Now I slowly build it into a side to side. Okay? And then when I'm comfortable, I can sit on both sides. Now, everyone's going to be a little bit different, but I could go with both of my feet on the ground for a stretch, back and forth, or to get a deeper stretch, I can go toe up on that plant foot, okay? So just sitting there, again, playing, opening up the hips, okay? Sometimes in between, going back to the circle, and then really stretching. Sometimes I sit at the bottom and go back to forth, and then working on stretching and opening up those hips, all right? So those are my 5 stretches that I always constantly do on a regular basis, but it doesn't stop there. As you get done your static stretching with that little bit of movement, it's time to get a little bit more dynamic. And now from here, this is a little bit of bonus stuff for you, but what I would move from here is working more like getting my side kicks. So you can see already now, my high kick flexibility is getting better, my hips are open, and I can move. And the key is, I'm tighter on my left side, so boom, already I feel my left kick, side kick getting better. I can work hook kicks, turning kicks, everything to open up. Now at this point, what I would do is I'd bring in somebody, and this is when I start working head kicks with a little bit more fluidity, right? So no better way is the single pad. If the single pad is up nice and high, you start low, kicking through, and then you build it up a little bit higher, right? So already you can see how my flexibility is improving, okay? Even higher, as high as we can, right? Nice and high, and nice. All right, so you can see simple exercises. I started this video cold, not stretch, tights really hip, my hips really tight, and what's gonna happen now, it opened up as I stretched, okay? Play around with it, use some of the static stretching, hamstrings, glutes, hips, groins, focus on it, find what's tight, and do it every single day. And that's how it gets better. If you try to do these stretches once a week, it's never gonna get better, okay? Consistency is the key when it comes to your stretching. All right, hope you enjoyed today's video. Make sure you keep liking, subscribing, and sharing Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA. Make sure you support the channel sponsors, Perfect Sports Nutrition, Hayabusa, descriptions below, and of course, bazookatraining.com. For $9.99 a month, you get access to me teaching you constantly every day, from home workouts, tutorials, bag workouts, and sparring drills for only $9.99 a month. BazookaTraining.com. We'll see you next time here at Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA.